name is Trish, and in this video I will be doing a book haul. So since the quarantine started, I have not been able to purchase a lot of physical books. The malls with the major bookstores are in a neighboring city, and even now with our quarantine more lax since we've flattened the curve here in our area, I am still not risking it because I am a nervous coward and I should not be giving myself more reasons to be anxious. For the first few months of the quarantine, I've actually saved up and bought myself a Kindle Paperwhite, and so most of my recent book purchases have been ebooks. There have been a few physical books purchased online, but it is really hard to say no to those Kindle sales. Like, really, really hard. When you can get a whole series for just 200 pesos. However, late August and the first week of September was a little bit of a dark time for me, and so I coped in the only way I knew how in my current quarantined, uninspired, nervous state, and that is stress shopping. Don't look at me. So I have the stack of books I hauled for those first 2 weeks of September here. Yes, it's a stack. No, I did not count how many books I've accumulated because
I am ashamed.
So the first book in this haul is Dear Igiawele, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions, written by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is a short non-fiction book, and it is actually a letter that the author wrote in response to a childhood friend asking how she could raise her daughter to be a feminist. I have yet to see a booktuber or a book reviewer that I trust that did not like this book. All I've ever heard about this book was how empowering and amazing and well written it is, so I'm very excited to get started with this. The next book in this haul is Arusha and the Song of Death, written by Roshni Chokshi, and this is the second book to the Pandava series and sequel to Arusha and the End of Time, which, based on the amount of tabs I used, clearly I enjoyed it. So in this book, we follow Aru in yet another adventure, or misadventure. This time around, the other world is in chaos after the god of love's bow and arrow are stolen, and to make matters worse, Aru is framed for the theft, and so she is given 10 days to return the bow and arrow or she will be exiled from the other world. I enjoyed the first book tremendously, Roshni Chokshi being funny is my brand of humor, and I'm sure that I will have just as much of a great time reading the second book as I did with the first book, so I'm really excited to continue with the series. Next book in this haul is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Nang. I bought this book because of two reasons, specifically because of two cats. The first cat is Kat from Paperback Dreams, and she absolutely loved this book, and I tend to trust her taste when it comes to contemporaries. The second cat is Kat of her bookish side, and this book made her cry. Like, she legitimately said that this book made her cry more than Jellicoe Road, and I've seen her cry over Jellicoe Road, and if a book can outrank Jellicoe Road in her make me cry scale, then it must be good. And since we're on the topic of me being influenced by other people into buying books, let me just go on a bit of a tangent here. I am a very impressionable person, and so when it comes to me deciding whether or not I should pick up a book, I tend to be influenced by the people I surround myself with or my friends that I follow on Twitter. There are a number of people whom I consider to be my reading taste influencers, but currently there are 3 fellow Filipino booktubers who have greatly influenced my reading taste, and every time I hear about a new book, I decide whether or not I should pick it up based on 3 criterias, and those criteria are either 1, Kate doesn't stop talking about it on Twitter, 2, Gerald just finished reading it and he has to go on a social media break for a few days because he has to wallow on his thoughts and feelings, or 3, it made Kat cry. So if a book meets either of those criteria, I'm sold. But anyway, back to the book. This is a contemporary drama that follows the Lee family after the body of their daughter has been discovered in a lake. So the sudden death has thrown the Lee family into an imbalance, and they have to deal with their grief while also trying to deal with family issues and secrets that have been uncovered. Based on the review of the two cats, I've gleaned that this book is really profound, really thought-provoking, and really, really sad. So, I'm in that place where I'm looking for books that make me cry. So this is perfect. The next book is also another contender for books that could make me cry, and that is, oh, can you see that? The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. This is a contemporary romance with a touch of fantasy because, as far as I know, there is some time traveling involved. So we follow the main character, Lydia Bird, after she loses her fiancé in a car accident, and she suddenly discovers that she has this ability to travel back to a timeline where he is still alive. And so she bounces from one timeline to another, and things get complicated because there's someone in her present timeline who has been helping her to cope with her grief and find joy again. And so it's become a choice between her staying back or moving forward. I'm not usually into contemporary romance, especially when I know that it's going to be sad. But like I said earlier, I'm in that place, and there's time traveling involved. So here's to hoping that this book not only makes me cry, but also makes me think. The next books in this haul are Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dust by Elizabeth Lynn. I bought these two books at the recommendation of Shalea of Shut Up Shalea. After the recent disgrace that was the live-action Mulan film, Shalea actually put up a blog post where she recommended a list of books that take on a creative and respectful twist on the myth of Mulan and on themes that are similar to that myth. And these two were on that list, and I'm so excited to start with these because Spin the Dawn was marketed as Mulan meets Project Runway, and I love both of those individually, so there's no reason that I shouldn't love them together. So in Spin the Dawn, we follow Maya, who has disguised herself as a boy and takes her father's place in competing to become the Emperor's tailor? The Imperial tailor. And so she's up against 12 other people, and on top of actually having to compete, she has to keep up her ruse of pretending to be a boy. So the competition is cutthroat, the pretending is cutthroat, everything is cutthroat, especially these covers. Like, god damn, those covers are gorgeous. Give me a moment to find out who the artist is because this is beautiful and I want to give them the credit that they deserve. It says here that the jacket art is by Tran Nguyen. They are absolutely gorgeous. The next book in this haul is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I bought this book because Jessie of Bowties and Books absolutely loves this series, and when it comes to fantasy, I really do trust their taste. Actually, when it comes to fantasy, there are two people that influence me the most. The first is Jessie of Bowties and Books, and the second is Kate of Your Tita Kate. These two people are responsible for 90% of my fantasy wish list. So the fifth season is... I'm not really sure. I'm not too sure about what the exact story is, but the synopsis I read said that it takes place during the end of the world, and we kind of follow 3 points in the story. The first is we follow one character, a woman who goes home to find out that her husband has brutally murdered her son and has taken their daughter. The second is we follow an empire on the brink of collapse after all its citizens are murdered. And the third is we follow this rift that starts building in a continent and this rift spews a lot of ash, and so it brings forth the end of the world, and basically nations are fighting against each other for basic needs and to survive. In my current state, this might not be the best book to pick up, so I might be reading this in a later time when I'm better. But I've heard great reviews about the series and the author, and I really do want to read more of their work, and so I'm very excited to start with this one. The next book is The Wolf of Origen by K.S. Villoso, aka the reason for this book haul. So I bought this book after I finished The Wolf of Origen on my Kindle. Here's the thing. I loved The Wolf of Origen. I gave it 5 stars. It is, without a doubt, one of my new favorite fantasy books. The problem is, I loved it so much that I became so attached to the characters, and I became so affected emotionally and mentally. I'm reading the sequel, The Icazar Falcon, right now, and That book is the reason why I now have full banks that won't cooperate. That book is the reason why I'm still purchasing books on Shopee. This is a heavy book, but it is so well written. And I'm sorry, I know this is not a book review, but please just let me say my piece. Let my feelings out. The Wolf of Origen is so brilliant, so well written. The world building is exquisite. The characters, oh my Jesus Christ, the characters. I am not a fan of first person point of view storytelling, but from the first chapter, I fell in love with Talien. I would let her cut my head off, serve it on a silver platter. Just step on my face, please, my queen. So even after I finished the book on Kindle, I still bought this in its beautiful physical form because I just felt icky and wrong about not having this book in my bookshelf. The next book in this haul is Roald Dahl's book of ghost stories. And I'm pretty sure that this is a collection of ghost stories curated by Roald Dahl and not a collection of ghost stories written by him. Let me check. Yeah, it's just a collection of his favorite ghost stories. And I think that's very self-explanatory enough, so I won't go any deeper into it. But check out that cover though. Very Edgar Allan Poe-esque. Come on, motherfuckers! The next book in this haul is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I'm trying to remember who recommended me this book. Who the fuck am I kidding? Of course it was Kate. It's either Kate or Jessie. It's really only those two people. So Gods of Jade and Shadow is a fantasy inspired by Mexican folklore. In this book, we follow the main character, Cassiopeia Tan, who opens a wooden box and accidentally frees the Mayan god of death. And so the both of them go in this adventure together, and that's all I know about the book. The next book in this haul is The Girl and the Ghost by Hannah Alka. Wow, would you look at that? Another book that I bought because of Kate. Thanks, Kate. Kate, my wallet says F you. So in this book, we follow the main character, Soraya, who is gifted a ghostly companion by her witch grandmother. These ghostly companions are called Pelicit, and Soraya named hers Pink. Anyway, Pelicits have a dark side to them, and Soraya and her ghostly companion find this out in a very hands-on experience. I've heard a lot of great things about this book on Twitter. All, if not most, of my mutuals have nothing but praise for it, and I'm very excited to be able to read it and finally get in on that excitement. The next book in this haul is Sagala, which is a graphic novel by Tori Tadiar. I don't know what to say about this book because to be completely honest, I don't know a lot about it or even anything about it. I actually bought this because of Kat, of her bookish side, yet again. And she sent me a few pages and I absolutely loved the art style. Also, Jesus Christ, I don't know if you can see the two characters, but oh my God. Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir. Anong order nyo? Those are some fucking good-looking fictional characters. I know I bought a book because the characters look good. I'm a simple whore. Let me be. The next book in this haul is A Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson. For once, this book was not actually recommended directly by Kate, but I still did buy it because of her. I think she also has a copy, and I trust her taste in sci-fi after she got me to read Conspiracy of Stars, which I absolutely loved. So in this book, we follow the main character, Andra, who has been in a cryogenic, am I saying that correctly? Cryonic sleep, and she was supposed to wake up after 100 years, but instead she ends up waking after 1,000 years, which is a bad time for her. All her friends or family are dead at this point, and their descendants, for some reason, think that she's some sort of goddess, and so she has to fight her way back to Earth in this new time and new world. The synopsis is very intriguing, very interesting. It has great potential for me to really, really like it. But to be honest, when it comes to sci-fi, I do need the motivation to actually start reading it. So if anyone wants to buddy read this with me, please The next book in this haul is Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie Mclemore. I bought this for two reasons. The first reason is I don't remember who, but I followed someone on Twitter and they always talked about this book because they said it was dark and suspenseful. And dark and suspenseful are two of my favorite flavors. So ka-chow. Second is because this reminded me of BuzzFeed Unsolved. For context, this is a retelling of that incident in France where people started dancing and they didn't stop until they died. And there's this inside joke within the BuzzFeed Unsolved community that Shane and Ryan still haven't covered that mystery, even though people have been recommending it to them for years and years now. As far as I know, aside from a short mention from Shane in one of the episodes, there really hasn't been any dedicated episode to it. Also, this is my first Anna Marie Mclemore book. I haven't read any of her past works, although I have heard really great things about her writing and her stories. So I'm excited to actually delve into her work, and starting with this one. The next book in this haul is Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar. This is a horror story about a small town that is divided into sort of two generations. So we have this one side where it's all the older people who just want to make their town great again. And then there's this other side filled with young people who just want to get the fuck out of that town. Things take a turn for the worse when a homicidal clown suddenly appears and starts killing all the young people. I picked this book up because I was intrigued, and I have a very complicated relationship with clowns. On one hand, I think they're absolutely terrifying. On the other hand, Ronald McDonald is very attractive. The next book in this haul is Wicked As You Wish by Rinch Peko. This is the first book to the 100 Names for Magic series, and we follow this prince who has fled his homeland after a coup by the Snow Queen, and so he spends his time in, I want to say Albuquerque, Arizona. So he spends his time in Arizona and he is bored the fuck out until he and his friend Tala find out that the Firebird, which I think is a really strong reference to the Ibo Madarna, has suddenly re-emerged, and this gives them hope to go back and fight for their homeland. This is another fantasy book recommended by Kate. I'm actually very excited to read this because the only Rinch Peko book I've read so far is The Bone Witch, and I absolutely love that. So here's to hoping that I love this one as well. Also, please look at the cover. God damn, it is smooth too. And finally, the last book in this haul, Song of the Crimson Flower by Julie Sidao. I could cry. I could fucking cry. I've actually already read this book in ebook. Rise of the Empress is one of my favorite series, and I just had to have it in my bookshelf because I am starting to curate my bookshelves and to fill it with books that I really love. And so it was a given that I should have this series on my shelves. And now I finally do, although, oh my god, it is driving me crazy how all three of them are in different sizes. Like, how can one series be printed in 3 different sizes? How? But I'm not too mad. I'm not too mad because the 3 of them do follow the same motif cover-wise, and you know, I'm just so happy that I finally have the complete series in physical form. So just a short synopsis of what this book is about. So this is a novella that's part of the Rise of the Empress series. We encounter a few familiar characters from the series here. The story involves angsty romance, a very questionable drug subplot, bits of fantasy, and just a really good time. A fucking good time. We look so pretty together. So that is it for this book haul. To be honest, I'm not really that ashamed that I bought books. I'm really more ashamed of the amount of books that I bought, but at the same time, I am sort of proud because, like I've said earlier, I am trying to curate my bookshelves so that when I look at them, I feel satisfied that what I have here are books that I actually want. So having people whose opinions I truly trust sort of influence my purchasing habits has actually been really helpful. And I know I'm getting a bit dramatic here, but I just want to say thank you to these people. And they are Jessie of Bowties and Books, Kat of Paperback Dreams, Cindy of Read with Cindy, Noria of Noria Reads, Shalea of Shut Up Shalea, Kate of Your Tita Kate, Kat of Her Bookish Side, and Gerald of Gerald the Bookworm. I don't know if I counted those people correctly. There might be 8 or 9, but yeah, those people are the ones that really influence me when it comes to picking up books. And thank you for helping me build up my reading taste. I'm feeling awkward now because that was some maalala mo kaya shit. Okay? Bye. Bye.